Hey everyone, it's Irene Lyon here. It is the 7th of December, 2020, and I am doing a live stream on this Monday to give you kind of not a final, but another chance to ask me questions about Smart Body, Smart Mind, my 12-week nervous system rewire program. This is a program we run once a year. I'm going to be talking about that program and also how we are in the midst of doing a very special early registration, gotta get my words straight there, registration for a science study, an academic research study that we're hoping to run alongside of it. If you are brand new here and you've never hopped on one of my videos, be patient. This might be a little confusing because you have no clue about my online work, my online programs. Maybe you've only watched some of my YouTube videos or followed me on Instagram or what have you. But one of the things my team and I do is we run online programs, and we've been doing Smart Body, Smart Mind for about 6 years now, give or take. We've run it 9 times, and next year, 2021, will be the 10th time we have run this transformative program. And so what I want to do is I want to answer questions that you might have about Smart Body, Smart Mind here on this live stream. I'm also going to answer some of the commonly asked questions we're getting in from our support email. Just because I'm sure if we have more than a handful of people asking these questions, then chances are you have that question as well. And I'm also going to just make sure that everything's coming through loud and clear. It looks like I've got about 25 people here. You might be watching this on YouTube. You might be watching the recording because we've sent this over to you via email. Wherever you are watching this and listening, thank you for being here. We are needing to know if you want to join by the end of this week. So in other words, registration is only open until Friday. That is the 11th of December. And I'll explain some of the details in a moment. But the reason why it's a short window and we need to get people in now is we have to start with what's called the baseline. I'm going to say that one more time. The baseline surveys. So with any research study, not any research study, but a lot of them that involve some form of intervention where you're doing something and we want to see before and after, there needs to be a moment in time, we would call it a control period of time, where you're not doing the course, where you're not doing the intervention that we are looking at. And so even though Smart Body, Smart Mind, the next round, the 10th round, is going to start early March 2021, we need to know that you're interested and that you are willing and that you want to do Smart Body, Smart Mind next year. And if you want to contribute and volunteer your time, and I'll mention how much time you would need to volunteer. If you're interested in volunteering your time for the study aspect, because they're 2 separate things, I'll talk about that too in a second, we need you in and registered by this Friday so that we can do that not we, but the research team can do that baseline survey. Okay, I'm going to just make sure everyone's here. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. If you have a question for me, please use the comment. I don't see any yet, and I hope that they are coming through. So first of all, what I will give you a brief outline of is what Smart Body, Smart Mind is. So Smart Body, Smart Mind is a program that, as I said, we've been running for about 6 years now. This will be the 10th time that we run it in March. And it is a group online program that is interactive and it is multidimensional in that there are video trainings pre-recorded where you're learning about the nervous system, in-depth nervous system knowledge that is in some ways much deeper and gets into the specifics of the branches of the nervous system, how it works, how the whole system works. You get those video trainings, you get audio neurosensory exercises. That is me. That is my special type of work where I'm guiding you through your nervous system, through movements of your body, through self-touch regulation-based exercises that work at the stress organ level, so the kidneys, the adrenals, the gut, the brainstem, the tissues, the joints, the entire body, the movements of your body, how we make sound, how we socially engage and orient to the environment. So the practical elements of Smart Body, Smart Mind are facilitated through audio lessons that I have recorded. So 12-week program comprised, I'll say again, of video trainings, audio neurosensory exercises. We also have training calls, which are kind of like another form of education, but they're live like this over Zoom. We've been using Zoom for many, many years, so something we've been comfortable with for quite a while. And so 8 training calls where I walk you through even deeper education, deeper integration into the material that you are doing practical and learning. And so I'm mixing it all into these lectures. There are also live Q&A calls over the course of the 12-week period, about 18 of them, where I am facilitating those again live on Zoom, and one of my colleagues, also my husband, Seth, he also facilitates those, so we share them. And then within the program, you are guided with a curriculum that is set to follow what I call the importance of neuroplastic, so neuroplasticity, neuroplastic healing sequencing. So over the 12 weeks, there are 10 modules. We call them labs. Within each lab, there are 4 lessons. So these are just the specifics of what SBSM is, so you know it's an actual course. You're doing stuff. It isn't just random videos that we give to you. It's all designed in a very structured way. Over the course of 12 weeks, 10 labs. Each lab has 4 lessons. We give you a suggested pathway to work through those lessons over the week. The training calls are also within those weeks. We have 2 weeks that are what we would call rest, catch-up, integration weeks. And then we also have got a Facebook group. So if you're here watching on Facebook, you're comfortable with Facebook. Many people join Facebook just to use our group. And that's all that they have on Facebook. Wouldn't that be really cool if you were just on one group on Facebook? So they use it to interact with their peers, with us, our team, etc. So that group is a place for people to ask questions of the labs and lessons. It's a place to share resources, get to know your peers, etc. It is not mandatory to be part of the Facebook group. There are many people, I would say hundreds and hundreds of people that have gone through Smart Body, Smart Mind who have never entered into that Facebook group ever again. They just do the work, they follow our suggested guidelines, they attend the training calls, they attend the Q&A calls, and they practice. Now the other thing to know about Smart Body, Smart Mind, it doesn't just end at 12 weeks. So when we end the live session, my team and I are with you live. At the end, it's close to about 14 weeks because we have an orientation week at the beginning, then we have a wrap-up week at the end, and then the content is in the middle. So we're all together live, going through, supporting each other. It creates this beautiful field of healing, learning, energy when everyone is together. I can tell you it's powerful. Even though you're not seeing people and with them in the same place, like a workshop, there's something powerful when hundreds of souls, humans, nervous systems are working towards the same cause. So when we end at the 12-week period, really 14-week period, you still have access to the course. So this course is more than just that 12-week period. It's a lifetime membership. So everything that I've just mentioned, the audio lessons, the video trainings, the Q&A, recordings, everything is recorded. So the live question and answer, the live training calls happen daylight time, Pacific time. If you can't make it live, it's not a problem. We record everything, and then you can listen to the audio, the video, you can read the transcript after the fact, right? We have people in Europe, we have people on the other side of the hemisphere, in Australia, in New Zealand, in South Africa. So our time zones are many, and so don't let the time zone be the reason why you don't join. And if anything, listening to the recording, from what I've heard, is really valuable because you can pause at any time and titrate, take in the information, walk away, have a cup of tea, come back to it later in the day, come back to it the next day. It's very different than sitting in a lecture at, say, university and knowing that you can't get up and walk away or else you're going to miss what the professor is teaching, right? So that is the beauty of online work, and that is also why online learning is so great for nervous system healing and nervous system rewiring and working at this deep level to work on trapped traumas. Being able to slow things down and pause and take a break and integrate and titrate, so important in this work. And there's nothing worse than trying to fit in and push and override what we're feeling in the name of getting it all done and getting essentially, your money's worth, right? So the beauty of this is when we end at the 12 weeks, it's not over. You continue to access and have access to all of the programming materials, all of the recordings, all of the transcripts, the Facebook group, when we end indefinitely. So in other words, this course lives on after we finish it. I'm going to look at the questions in a moment, everyone, and I'm going to be taking questions that are specific to Smart Body, Smart Mind, and your suitability for it, and as opposed to specific consult-based questions. I'm going to answer a few more questions after I have a little sip of water here. Okay, the other thing that I wanted to mention, if you know you want to do Smart Body, Smart Mind, but you don't want to contribute to this research study, that's fine. We are going to open up normal registration in mid-February 2021, as if always, as if we always do. So that's not changing. The reason why we, again, as I mentioned, for those of you who are here at the beginning, we need to get some people registered early to run this studies. We need to do a baseline comparison to now, March, and then when we end in June. This kind of research is rarely, if not, it's never ever been done at this level. Sure, there are research studies that study psychology and various therapeutic interventions that are a bit more, we could say, well known, but this level of neuroplastic healing sequencing in an online format, blending together 3 different modalities: somatic experiencing, somatic practice, the work of Kathy Kane; SE, somatic experiencing, the work of Peter Levine, again, both of my teachers; and the Feldenkrais method, the work of Dr. Moshe Feldenkrais. Having them all together, it's powerful. And I say that not lightly. If you haven't had a chance to read and listen to some of the stories from our alumni, the people who have literally walked these virtual hallways of Smart Body, Smart Mind since its inception, since when I ran it just myself and my one assistant, right? Our alumni who were with us from the beginning, many are still with us because it's a lifestyle, this work. It's not like, I often use the example, it's not like taking a course of antibiotics for, say, a lung infection, and then you're done and it's cleared up and you go back to life and everything is pretty okay. This is a very different kind of work. And so because of the multidimensional elements of the modalities that I am offering you and bringing into this sort of mix, as well as the multidimensionality of how you're learning, it's not just practical, it's not just theory, and it's not just live calls, it's all different learning styles into this course, into this program. One of the questions we often have been getting is if you have to pay for this. The answer is yes. We're still running this as it's a normal program. So from my end, when we start officially in March, I am not going to know who is in the study and who is not, for the sake of having some element of control and some blindedness, so that I'm not treating anybody differently. My team won't know who is in, who isn't. So I will go in to March as if it's any other session. I'm really looking forward to it. It feels like ages since I last taught at this level. So we're going to go in as a group. Some of you might be part of the study and doing SBSM, and some of you might be just doing SBSM and you're not part of the study. We won't know who is who, and that's kind of the beauty of this, is that we'll just treat it as though it's a normal Smart Body, Smart Mind curriculum like any other year. So you do have to pay. You pay one of two prices. So I'll run that down in a moment because I see someone has a question about the 21-day course. So the program, if you have never done the 21-day nervous system tune-up, so this is brand new to you and you're like, wow, this sounds really interesting, the full cost is $1,997 US. That's for if you pay in full the tuition. We also have a payment plan of $197 US, so $197 a month for 12 months. So that is if you're brand new, you've never done the 21 days, and if you want to join, it's either one payment of $197 or 12 payments of $1,997 or 12 payments of $197. So that's the basic cost for those of you who are new. Now, many of you I know have done my 21-day nervous system tune-up course, which is a self-study course. You can start it at any time. That course has been curated, a big portion of it has been curated from Smart Body, Smart Mind. Not everything in the 21 days is in Smart Body, Smart Mind. Because it's its own course, we have to add some introductory videos, some descriptions, right? There's some different bonuses in there. How we give you tips to integrate the work is a little different because it is a more basic course. If you have done the 21-day nervous system tune-up and you would like to do Smart Body, Smart Mind, and you would like to contribute your time to this study, we take the cost of the 21-day nervous system tune-up program off of the Smart Body, Smart Mind full tuition. I hope you're following me. So in other words, you get it's $297, but we give you $300 off. So it ends up being $1697 or 12 payments of, I think it's $177 over the 12-month period. So that is for you guys who are 21-day nervous system tune-up members. If you do want to join, we give you a special link so that you can purchase at that level. If you've made a mistake and you've bought the full tuition, don't worry, send us an email. We have you in our system and we will refund you that money back. So in many ways, if you have done the 21-day nervous system tune-up, you've already invested into Smart Body, Smart Mind proper, the entire program. The other thing about Smart Body, Smart Mind, SBSM, is each year we do improvements. Usually we do some improvements or we add some things. So if we ever add a lesson or if we update the videos, something I'm doing this year we remastered the sound healing music, these sorts of things that we add and improve, you get those changes, those additions for free. So once you are a member, you are a member for life. As long as we keep running this course, you keep getting to come back and participate live with the new members. Got a piece of paper here so I don't forget the other commonly asked questions. So yes, you have to pay for the tuition of SBSM to be a part of this research study. If you are already a Smart Body, Smart Mind member, I'm sorry, but you cannot participate in the study because you've already been exposed to the whole SBSM curriculum, and we need to have some parameters to who we allow in. My hope is if we can make this go, and we need enough people to make it go. Again, Smart Body, Smart Mind is running no matter what. I just want to be very clear. If the research study doesn't go, not that it doesn't matter, I would love it to go, but we will still run SBSM. We'll do our normal registration just like always in mid-February. But if you are an SBSM member, I apologize, you cannot join us. But what I was going to say there is that if this does go with the research study, it gives us opportunity to do more, right? We all have to start somewhere when it comes to academic research. In the beginning, it's always kind of what we would call a pilot study, where we're piloting something different. This work isn't different to me, but it's different to the academic world, right? And so because of that, my hope is we can do this so that then we might be able to do some work with alumni and look kind of retrospectively back to the history of how things have changed for someone who has gone through this SBSM curriculum and how they change over the years, right? I just did a beautiful interview with an alumni named John. He's in Sydney, Australia. We talked to him about 3 years ago this December. hearing about him and just how the course has helped him. And then I talked to him this summer and did a kind of a recap, like, where are you? What are you doing? And it's really great watching those two videos side by side, and I encourage you to do it because you can see the aliveness, the regulation, the just, you know, he's just more him. His authentic self is even bigger and better 3 years later. And so he talks about how the work slowly shifts and infuses over time. It's not something you just end when the course ends. The other thing, I think I answered it all. And yes, if you are a 21-day member, if you did 21 days 5 years ago or you're doing it right now, yes, you can participate, because they're even though the essence and the ethos is all about nervous system healing and rewiring and healing traumas, SBSM has a lot more in it. If any of my members are here, any of my SBSM alumni are here listening to this right now, and I'm sure some of you are, you could probably vouch for the fact that there is a much more comprehensive and all kind of inclusive nature to the SBSM program. Again, 21 days is great, and it's a great way to start, but we can only get so much in 21 days. You can't learn a full language in 21 days, nor can you learn how to rewire and find deep regulation in the nervous system in 21 days. It's not possible, right? But it's a start. It's the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. Smart Body, Smart Mind teaches you how to really write in a different way, create your own handwriting. You know, if I use that as a metaphor, it's teaching you how to really speak the language of the nervous system and become your own medicine. Okay, that was my cheat sheet. The other thing I wanted to mention, and then I'll get to the specific questions, the time that it'll take to contribute is about 6 hours. So not the program, not Smart Body, Smart Mind, but the research component. So you will be asked to do a series of online survey-based questions and cognitive tasks. So you need a computer, you need to be able to access one, which I'm sure you are since you're here today. And they range, the researchers said, about an hour and a half, 2 hours, give or take, depending on the person. But 2 hours now in December, 2 hours in March, and then 2 hours in June when we finish up. For those of you that have an iPhone, so not just any smartphone, but an iPhone, an iOS, there is an app that Colette Smart, so she is the head researcher of the team, and I'll talk a little bit about her in a moment. She has developed an app to study interoception, and interoception is the perception of our internal environment. I'll talk about that in a second too. And so she's developed this app to study and to track how someone's interoception changes over time. And so if you have an iPhone and if you decide to join, you may be asked to do one extra tiny little bit of data collection, which is over a period of, I think it's 5 to 7 days, just once a day. The app reminds you to pause, feel, you punch something in, and then it documents where you are at the level of being able to listen to the interoceptive qualities of your body. So that's a fun little app that she's developed based on her work. But again, it's about 6 hours, so not a lot of time between now and then. The main amount of time that you'll need to put in is into the Smart Body, Smart Mind curriculum protocol, the program. The other thing that's cool, so Colette Smart, Smart Body, Smart Mind, and her last name have no relation. It's just a very cool coincidence that her lab is called the Smart Lab. So when I found out that research team was interested in doing this project with us, I'm like, oh, well, that's kind of interesting. So she is based out of the University of Victoria, that's in British Columbia, on Vancouver Island, Canada. So she runs a research lab called the Smart Lab. She has graduate students working under her. She teaches psychology at the university level, and she is also a psychologist, and she is also very interested in mindfulness, but also somatic movement as a way of rehabilitating trauma and the like. So she is not new to this work. She is familiar with Peter Levine's work. She's familiar with Kathy Kane's work, and the importance of movement in relationship to healing at this neuroplastic level, which is exactly what SBSM is all about. If you go to our site, if you go there even now, if you open up a browser, you'll see a little box that says go here to learn more about the study. On that page will be a paragraph with a few bullet points of how to learn about the study. So you have to do two things if you're interested. You want to learn about Smart Body, Smart Mind, which I'm hoping to give you as much as I can right now. And then you're going to want to go to the Smart Lab site. And you'll have to put in a passcode SBSM. And there will be a letter of introduction from the research team to you, telling you about who they are, what they want to study, who she is, and how the study will work. There will also be a video about just under an hour telling you and describing what interoception is. This is one of the key things we want to study. And true story, just the other month, Peter Levine, again, founder of SE, he said in a masterclass I was attending that we cannot heal a chronic illness if we do not know how to be with our interoception. We have to learn how to be in our internal physiology to heal it, right? Trauma takes us out of this physiology or it's over heightened. And so we have to find a way to find that nice harmonious balance with how we connect to our internal and how that internal interacts with the external, right? So her main research focus and love is interoception and studying it. So it's a perfect match with our work in SBSM. So again, on that site, you'll find that letter, you will find the video, and you'll find also what's called an implied letter of consent. Of course, we got to do some legal speak. You got to know what you're agreeing to be in, kind of standard stuff. And then if you're like, yep, I would like to do this, then you join. You pay your tuition, whether it's the full price or the payment plan, the monthly payment plan. And then immediately we want you to contact the Smart Lab so that they can start with the surveys and the cognitive online tests that they are going to do for a baseline measurement. I hope that all makes sense. I hope I'm not missing anything important there. I'm going to get to the questions. Let me just have another bit of liquid here. Okay. Hey, Elise. Let me just move my screen so I'm not off center. Okay. So you say having seizures, so you have seizures that come out of nowhere and you feel unsafe, dissociated. Can you elaborate on how the tools you teach that help us feel safer, calmer, gain back emotional stability, resiliency, and trusting our bodies, spontaneous wisdom toward healing? So how does SBSM help towards bringing more safety, calm, emotional stability, resilience, and trusting our spontaneous wisdom? So basically, Smart Body, Smart Mind is doing all of that. And it's doing it in a few ways. One, through education. Education is so important because of our higher human brains. We really need to understand at a deep physiological level, I believe, and I've shown this to be true with the thousands of people who have gone through, whether it's Smart Body, Smart Mind or 21 days, that when we get that higher brain understanding of what's happening, Elise, on board, we are better able to then be with the intense things like dissociation, feeling unsafe. So if we just kind of step back for a second, think of the human being. We have a mammalian animal nervous system, right? The insides that we have, if we were to look the insides of other mammals, very similar. Heart, digestion, pancreas, hormones, sex organs, nervous system, brain, spinal cord, right? If an animal gets hurt and is paralyzed, it's same with us, right? We've got very similar things there. They also have the fight, flight responses, the freeze responses, just like us humans do. Now, of course those mammals have brains, but their brains aren't as developed as ours. That's why us as the humans, we've developed these insane tools of technology, right? We're the only, so far that we know of, the only animal, if you will, the only species who has created, at least on Earth, these sorts of technologies. And because of this higher brain, I have found that people really need to understand that theory. So that is a huge portion of Smart Body, Smart Mind. The other portion is working with really the deep basics of restoration and restoring, I should say, regulation back to the whole system. So learning how to reorient to the environment, learning how to feel the body and reconnect to the whole self, the joints of the body. I'm not going to get into all the specifics, but we call them diaphragms of the body. The kidneys, the adrenal glands are what pump out stress chemicals when we feel unsafe, when we are in a situation of threat. If we had early adversity and stress and multiple surgeries and all sorts of bad stuff happen to us when we were young, and our organs, our somatic system, not just our stress organs, but our gut, our skin, our bones, our movements, how we see and connect with the world, how we use our brain, all of that is impacted by that threat or that perceived notion of threat. And so we dissociate when we can't handle what we are feeling inside or what we're seeing on the outside, right? We feel unsafe when we know we cannot fight or flee and we have to go into shutdown and freeze. And so the entire curriculum is designed very, very strategically to start to kind of warm up and open up the somatic insides, but also how we connect with the outside in a very step-by-step, drop-by-drop, we call it titrated way. And over time, slowly, with commitment, of course, and care, and going at your own pace, and listening and asking questions and engaging with the work and taking breaks when you need to, that slowly starts to build up what we call regulation of the nervous system, of the autonomic nervous system. When regulation comes back on board, those words you write there, that's what leads us to feel more calm. That's what gives us resiliency. That's what gives us trust of our body's spontaneous actions. In order to heal the really deep stuff that most of us have buried in our system, myself included, no one is immune to this trauma stuff. Everyone who is watching this, who is living in some kind of civilized Western society, has experienced having to shut down, having to disconnect from the body, not be who we truly are because it's not politically correct or socially correct or religiously correct or family correct, right? We have all in some way stunted ourselves, our expression, our exuberance, our growth, our creativity because of this very, very engineered way that we've created the current paradigm of humanity. The good news is that we can break out of that, and when we do so in a way that is, again, slow, has the perspective on this nervous system as opposed to, so here's the thing, Elise, and this will probably help a few people here. I am not ever in the course, nor are my staff asking you about your traumas. We never ask once, what was the worst thing that happened to you? What did you overcome? We don't go there. That's because it's not that it's not important, but it's not essential to work at this level. We're actually trying to reverse engineer things and build up capacity and safety and reconnection to the body and the environment. And then with time, as you grow that system back to its natural organic self, the old stuff that's in the system that's trapped, it just starts to come up and out. And it will come up and out in ways that I can never predict. But we teach you throughout the course the things that you might see, that you might expect to see. But one person who had the exact same kind of trauma when they were young to another person, how that comes out might be totally two different scenarios when they heal and it starts to express. For some people, it might be tears. For some, it might be a spontaneous movement. For others, it might be setting boundaries differently. For others, it might be a skin rash that comes out, or it might be some sleepless nights to feel the physiology that's been trapped for so long. Everyone's going to be a little different. So That's a very long way of saying, and hopefully that will satisfy a few other questions, that the curriculum is designed exactly for this spontaneous wisdom to come up and out, and we've seen it happen hundreds of times. Okay. The next part of your question is, one of the people who took SBSM mentioned how your program would have been too triggering being in her body without one-on-one support with an SE practitioner. I've been told SE would not help me given that I am unable to replicate the fear sensations I feel for only 5 seconds before a seizure occurs and I leave my body. What other support do you recommend to help me through your program so it isn't too triggering? This is a great question. I'm going to answer this in 2 parts. One, it is totally possible to do one-on-one work with an SE practitioner, but that SE practitioner has to know what they're doing. And if an SE practitioner knows how to help titrate and do what we would call pre-prodromal work, this is the kind of work you would do with someone who has such things like seizures or migraine headaches, or some kind of triggering phobia that they know happens when their fear response gets up. Working at this level means doing tiny, the tiniest drop of work, and then calling it a day, and having no ego and saying, we're only doing 5 minutes today, and that's it. And that doesn't fit the current model where you might go see someone for an hour or 30 minutes and pay them the $100 to $200 for that session. The way that our classic therapeutic relationships are set up is almost sometimes negates the need of the nervous system. So the beauty I have found of the online work, and I've mentioned this, is that you can pause, you can stop, you can shut that computer lid, turn off the phone, feel the tiniest drop of sensation, and then your higher brain needs to kick in, Elise, and be like, that's enough. I'm going to have my cup of tea now, and I'm going to feel it. As opposed to our very classic regimented school system model, which is, white knuckle it through until you're sweating and bleeding and your brain is so overfilled with all of the knowledge that you can't remember anything else but reciting those times tables, right? Like we've compartmentalized our education into, you got to focus and stress on these things and then forget everything else. And that might be important for someone who's being an engineer, trying to be a doctor and know how to do these things. But in our work here, the support I recommend is the support you give yourself. There are people who go through SBSM who will find a coach, who will find a mentor, who will have maybe a friend that they connect with, an animal, a pet even, that they are with, that they can find resourcing and soothing with. And the very first lesson in SBSM is researching your resources. So what are your resources? Do you have resources that can help you connect and find a little bit of containment and down regulation? So everyone's going to be different, and really I always say to everybody, Elise, you got to follow the gut and feel what you're being drawn to, and usually if you go with that, usually we make the right decision. Okay, next one, Paula. I'm currently doing another program like Thomas Hubbell's Healing Collective Trauma that goes through next spring, and personal energy coaching and healing sessions. I would imagine the study wants only people who will be doing SBSM. Paula, that's a great question. And from what we've set, it's okay if someone's doing something else, but we don't want you to be doing like 5 things. So this could be a good question to ask the research team, because we can't stop you from hiring a personal coach. We can't stop you from doing an energy session, from doing an osteopathic session, from doing another form of learning. I mean, you have the free will to choose what you want to do. We have had people do multiple things while they do SBSM, and they still find benefit because what they learn in SBSM is going to transfer and help those other things. But you could definitely send the Smart Lab an email and ask them specifically that question. I would say personal energy coaching and healing sessions in my opinion, shouldn't influence SBSM just because SBSM is its own beast. It's its own curriculum. It's powerful. I am not sure what is in Thomas Hubbell's Healing Collective Trauma. I'm not sure. So you could ask. My hope is that it would be okay, but you might want to ask. Hopefully that answers that question. Okay, Christian, I answered your question already about the 21 days. Janet, yes, there's a payment plan. Janet asks, I'm new to this. Where do I start? And I would love the opportunity to participate in the research. So what I would suggest, Jeanette, is you go to our Smart Body, Smart Mind registration page. I've already given a little bit of information, but read through, see what it is that you get within the tuition for SBSM. Take some time to read and listen to some of the stories from our past participants, our alumni, and just feel into it. Like, again, we need to make a cerebral decision with this, but it's also important to make a gut feel into this. Like, the body has to say yes. Even if there's a little bit of fear and trepidation and resistance, which is always normal when we embark on something new, we want the system to be like, yeah, this feels good, I want to do this, or this feels good, but I'm a little terrified, but that's okay. We have to remember, everyone, when we're healing this trauma stuff, we're healing old wounds that have been with us since maybe before we were even born, right? Because we know that in utero, intergenerational, and I've even talked a little bit about past life trauma, those things are real, they've been documented, and what it comes down to is the current moment and realizing there's a lot of old stuff that maybe I haven't looked at, and when we work with it, it's going to feel sometimes intense, and we actually want that, because if we don't feel the intensity, then we know we're not getting to those deep survival responses. The key is that the intensity doesn't overwhelm us and disconnect us more or put us into more survival. So again, it's so hard sometimes to convey this when it's super new to you. Most of our paradigms of healing, even in like alternative and self-help, have been, let's try to get rid of the pain, let's try to soothe the pain. And while we want to not be living in pain all the time, part of healing these old survival stressors is gaining the capacity, the foundation, restoring resiliency and enough regulation back so that we can, I like to say, ride the tsunami wave of some of these old things, so that that wave can finally crest and come down, settle into the sand, and then reintegrate back into the ocean. That is obviously a metaphor, but that is what we're working with here. And I would never ask anyone to go surf waves if they haven't learned how to swim yet, let alone go into an ocean or understand the dynamics of wind, for example, right? So very important to understand the basics, but also that part of this journey is working on stuff that we buried for good reason, right? We stuffed things in when we were young before we understood how to process these deep, deep survival stressors, these physical reactions. It's not just emotional reactions, these are physical sensations that we didn't know what to do with when we were young, and so we just hid them somewhere in our body, and sadly they don't go away with time. These are not like, it's not like I actually cut my thumb last night cutting parsley, got a little bit of my finger cut off. Like, this is going to heal without me doing much to it other than keeping it clean. My body's immune system is going to stitch back that skin back, miraculously. It's amazing. So that there's a part of our system that is very automatic and autonomic, but I have found, and my colleagues have found, that this level, these deep traumas, get stored because our higher brain has not allowed us to process them piecemeal. By that I mean when they happen, we don't naturally spontaneously move them out, usually because of our society where we are, and that we've just been trained not to. So this stuff is really getting you back to that organic sense. Okay. Oh, hey, Elizabeth. Thank you for your comment. You say, in March I will begin my 3rd year of SBSM. So here's an alumni giving her little 2 cents. She said, I began with the 21-day course, but that's just the beginning. It takes the 12 weeks, the program to truly do the deep work. And she said, I went off of thyroid medication in May. It truly calmed my body. Thank you. So yeah, that's a great example. And Elizabeth's not the only one. We've had people who've shifted their meds, who aren't needing to, go to the chiropractor every week. They're learning how to take care of their bodies better. They're eating cleaner, not because they're visiting a dietitian. They're just more in tune with their body. And when we're more in tune with our body, we know how to help it and we know how to give it what it wants. And so, if you will, think about this as not a program that's just going to work with one thing. It's working with that one thing, the autonomic nervous system and the somatic systems, in a way that touches everything. This doesn't mean that you might not go and see a massage therapist from time to time, or an acupuncturist, or you might go and see a therapist because of some marital problems or whatever. Those things are still really important. But when we have this understanding and this skill, it's really a skill to be with our physiology, it just pops. Things start to pop in really good ways. Okay, hey there, Bow Balance. Hey, Kathy. I have done your 21-day course and have had a somatic practitioner, and I feel I've improved by at least 25%, and I'm feeling more regulated. I feel the SBSM course would complete the healing, and I'm interested in helping the research. Awesome. And then you asked, may we continue with SE sessions and a practitioner while in SBSM? My overall answer to that is yes. But Kathy, you can definitely connect with the researchers and just verify that. But like I said a moment ago, I'm not ethically going to say to someone that they can't still see an osteo or an SEP or whatever. It's part of the whole kit and caboodle, so to speak. Tina, no, there is no discount for being part of the study. We're running it as though it always has run for the last 9 times, just to keep it consistent with how it works and how it has worked for people. This is not related to SBSM, but I will read it out and answer it briefly. It's Miyoki. Would you say intestinal troubles in older age can belong to old childhood trauma? Yes, absolutely. It could be other things too. While diet is important, we also have found that it's not everything. But yeah, intestinal problems, reproductive problems, cardiovascular problems, cancer, arthritis, autoimmune conditions, depression, anxiety, addiction, all of this has been seen and connected very strongly in the research to early childhood trauma and adversity that obviously has not been healed at this level. So yes, 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 yes. Hey there, Sambal. So you left your toxic home in Pakistan 5 years ago and came to Germany to start a new life as a master's student. Wonderful. Over these years, I realized how traumatized I am. I have been unable to take my life forward as I thought I would. So yeah, sorry to hear that you've come across that reality, but it is something that happens, obviously. So you said, I'm in complete survival mode. I started with the 21 days and I'm planning to do SBSM. Can I be saved? Smiley face. I'm at the verge of packing up and heading back home, but that is traumatic in itself. So here's the thing. I believe that everybody has the capacity to heal. I believe everybody has deserves to heal. It's you, the person. You have to not only believe that you can heal and want to do the healing work, but you have to feel that you deserve it. We're not feeling that we deserve a life that is better and a life that is free. Free will is very powerful, right? But it also can go the other way. So it's very important. I have found, at least the success of my program participants, they no longer identify as being the victim. They know that they were maybe victimized, traumatized, abused. 100%. That is accurate. That is real historical evidence. But how a person is in their body, in their mind, in their soul, and in their connection to the environment and the people around them, how they relate to their potential is very important, right? So if you feel that you've got the potential and the deserving innate birthright to be well and to break out of that trauma, then yes, of course, but that has to be on you, not on me, right? I'm here to give you guys the curriculum. It's been developed. We've had people from over 60 countries go through my 2 programs combined. So that's a pretty good track record. Thousands of people have gone through. And so that's all I can really say there. It comes down to the person and really listening to your system and knowing that you want the best and not just good enough, but really good, more than good enough. For the payments, the 12 monthly payments, yes, so the 12 payments are for the 12-week program, and it's every month. So let's say you join tomorrow on the 8th after you've done your homework. I want you to really learn and take some time to understand what the program is, what the study is, right? I don't want you to just impulse buy. I want you to really, use your higher brain and feel into it. So let's just say you decide to sign up tomorrow on the 8th of December, then on the 8th of January, the 8th of February, etc. for 12 months or for 11 months, that will continue on a month-to-month basis. And some people, I'll just say this, we don't advertise this, but a lot of people will start with the 12 months and then they realize that they actually can pay it off in full before the 12 months and they would rather do that. We also will offer that to you if that's something that people want to do. Okay, question from support. Someone must have emailed this in. Will SBSM help with restless leg syndrome? So yes. Again, I'm going to piggyback on what I said to Sambal. Yes, and you have to do the work. So restless leg syndrome is nothing more than stored sympathetic survival energy. It's the desire for those legs to run, to kick, to stomp, to just like get out energy. Right? And so often people will feel their legs wanting to twitch and run and that at night, and it usually happens later at night because that's when the system is calming down. It's going into more parasympathetic, which means that you're not busying yourself with all the things we do typically in our Western world to not feel, right? And so the moment we go and lay down, or maybe we're watching a funny movie or we're just chilling out, after a meal, we'll feel that energy, and that is survival energy wanting to come out. And so part of working with restless leg syndrome is being able to track that sensation and then be able to movement in what we would call the procedure of the body, the movement that it wants to do up and out. And it might be something as gentle as just a little wave of movement, or it can be a very violent shake. And everyone's going to be a bit different. So 100% yes. And the other thing to note, like restless leg is something that we all have in some degree. And I'll say this, like when we move through this work and we maybe move a running response out of our legs, this doesn't mean that we might not have another running response come out. True story. Something got me a little pissed off yesterday, and when I went to bed I could feel my body had some energy in it. It just didn't want to go to sleep, and I had to move my legs a little more aggressively in bed. Of course, it's safe to do so. I'm not going to hit anyone, but know that this work doesn't end. Like there isn't this, okay, now I've healed everything and I will never experience any stress and I will never experience any trauma. That's not true, right? We are learning these tools for 2 reasons. One, to work on the old stuff that's been stored, but then also to have it so that as we move forward, we never store anything anymore. 20 years ago, I would have had no idea that inability to sleep and that restlessness in my body could have moved out by me moving and following the impulse and the sounds to get it out of my body. Right? But I did, and then I eventually went back to sleep, and I feel great today. But most of us don't know how to track that because it was bleached out of us so young. So it's a great, simple question about will it help with restless leg syndrome? Yes, it will, and it'll also make it so that we're not storing future stress and future trauma in our body, because it's going to happen. We're going to get into altercations. We're going to see things that we don't like. We're going to hear some really bad news. We might have an accident, etc., etc., etc. I hope you don't have an accident, that these things happen. That's life. It's part of living on this planet. And the key is, can you be better with what occurs as this time goes forward so that those things don't stick the way they did when we were young? The other thing, if you're a parent or you work with kids, this will completely shift and change how you relate to your children or kids that you are with, because those little ones are so pure and they know exactly what they need, and it's the conditioning in us adults that tends to stop it in them, right? And so the more regulated a person is, an adult is, the way easier it is being with those little beings that are immature and figuring out their emotions. So I just wanted to throw that in too. Hey Lynn, okay, in relation to the resistance you've mentioned, do you have any advice for those who procrastinate, use procrastination as safety to avoid doing the work? I purchased the 21 days recently, and I'm watching myself in my usual shenanigans where I can't bring myself to start as much as I'm excited to change and heal. Then you say, crazy, right? Right? Comma, right? Yep, it's crazy, Lynn. So I'm going to be real bold. One of my colleagues, Twig, he is an SEP as well, and I learned a lot from him in my earlier years, and this is paraphrasing him, but not. He would often say, you just got to cut that shit out. Just cut it out. And I say that with a harsh kind of just stop, right? Because we can stay in this loop of procrastination and resistance forever, and most people, many people do. So that resistance, that energy of procrastination, somewhere in that is a sensation. Somewhere in that is a stop gap. It's a mechanism, it's a boundary of something. But there's a way in which we have to sometimes, and I'm going to use this word very lightly, we sometimes need to force ourselves to start. And I don't mean abuse ourselves and berate ourselves with mean words. And I know I just said, just cut that shit out. I say that in a very positive, very, come on, you know, like tough love, like do it. You've just invested in the 21 days, do it. Do 5 minutes, you know, and it's getting over that hump, because our past has kept us safe. And here's the other thing. You probably only know yourself in relationship to how your nervous system has been wired, right? And so it's a very specific, you know, this is how I am, blah, blah, blah. And so right now, embarking on this work means that you might not know what you look like when you come out the other side. And that can be terrifying for some people, especially if we're in relationships that we're not so sure that relationship, that husband, that wife, whatever, that job that we're in, it's possible that when we do this work, that is going to get shooken up a bit, right? It's going to shake it up. And that can be what stops us from moving forward, because we're worried of the uncomfortableness that might crop in as we change. The world around us might not change with us. And it's possible that will happen. And you cross that bridge when you come to it. But we will flee from health. We will avoid being more healthy and doing the work, because we are so wired with knowing our old ways better. And it's more comfortable and it's more controlled. But I guess I'll ask you this question. Is it healthy? Clearly you got into this work and you're here because something's not right in your life, whether it's an illness or I'm not sure what. But the question you might need to ask is, what is better? Is okay continuing to live with this chronic illness or this mental trouble or whatever it might be, versus the unknown? And some people just don't want to know the unknown and they won't go there. But if you're here, you're curious. My sense is you're curious, and that's why you're here. So use that curiosity to start the work. So Ka says, I'm having a hard time being in my body or feeling my body sensations. How can I create capacity within? This is exactly what I teach in my courses. So be sure to check out Smart Body, Smart Mind. That's what we teach, what I've been talking about over the last hour. Can the study requirements be met on an iPhone? They certainly can, Sharon. We have people who have done this on an iPhone or a tablet. I personally am someone who doesn't like working on a phone. My eyes might have bad vision. I wear contacts, and so I try not to strain my eyes, so I prefer a computer screen. But everything is, you can watch, you can listen, you can join the Zoom calls. It really is, if you are used to your phone, then 100% you can. You may not be able to download everything because the phone will only take so much storage. So that would be the only thing that you might have the trouble with. But if you have access to Wi-Fi or data, you will always be able to access that content. So it'll always be there. I'm just reading you guys. Hey Braden, you say, I realize everyone heals at a different rate. I wonder what percentage of the people that finish your program become regulated and can maintain regulation. That's a great question. We don't track every single person, but we have when we do survey people at the end, it's a high level of success and involvement and improvement. And and Crystal could probably put up a number. I can't give you all our internal stats, but it's a high level of people are absolutely thrilled with what they have learned, what they have gone through. And here's the thing, regulation never ends. Improvement doesn't end. So, we don't say to people at the end, or I don't ask, how many of you have attained regulation? Because that is a very intra-individual thing. It depends where that person's regulation was at the beginning. But by the by, we have seen that most people who, again, can communicate with us, because we can't force people to communicate with us, but for those that do, they will attest to the fact that this has allowed them to grow capacity, be more present with themselves, with their kids, with their sensations, and heal the illnesses that they've come in with. And some people come in and they don't have a specific chronic illness. They just have, social anxiety, for example, or they have trouble sleeping or what have you. And again, we're seeing all these shifts and changes across a whole spectrum of attributes, basically. So again, Braden, it's interesting actually you asked that, because this is one of the reasons why we want to do this study, because then we actually are going to be doing specific surveys and testings that look at these scales. We haven't done it because it wouldn't be valid for me to study my own people, right? There's a bias in there, and that's why I won't know who's in the study if it goes ahead, and so the research team will be the people taking care of that. So, and at the end of the day, this will be the 10th time we've run it. Thousands of people have gone through, many countries worldwide. The overall consensus is that whether or not someone finishes the program is often irrelevant, because the content is a lot. There's a lot of content in the 12-week program. Most people don't get to the full 10 labs, and that's very normal. And it's because the first 7 labs, give or take, are enough to last you for a year. And so we know that, we've told the researchers that, and it's all about being engaged with the process, right? Engaged with the learning, engaged with integrating what you're learning into the body and into the here and now. Jessica asks, what does that look like, feeling and knowing you are deserving? It takes some practice. And this is the thing, if we were raised in a very toxically shamed environment, we may not realize that we have the capacity to be free, right? We might not have any idea that we as humans have a birthright to deserve goodness and energy and expression and freedom. We might just assume that not having that is normal. If we were brought up in an environment where love was conditional, where whenever we tried to express, we were sent to our room or told that that was bad, or you're only allowed to sing on Sundays at church, but if you want to sing on a Thursday night when we're trying to watch TV, that's a no-no. I mean, I'm just making that up. You know, we will think that we don't have the deserving quality to be truly authentic, raw, sovereign human beings. Make sense? So perhaps I'm here as a proxy to say, yes, you deserve, but if you didn't get that, it's going to seem a little confusing. And so some of this work can be very confusing because we're asking you to enter into an inquiry that maybe even your parents or grandparents never even did, right? And this is where it kind of gets juicy and fun because we are literally rewriting history. We're rewriting the biological species of the human by doing this. And what's amazing is that to see someone who has been brought into a toxic, adverse, abusive family system, and they were abused because their parents were abused, and they were abused because their parents were in a war and they had nothing, so they were in survival mode, and all these past generations, and then to have us right now who are in our 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, heck 20s, on, you know, in the year 2021, 2020, to go in and to do this work and within a matter of a few months or a year, shift completely our interaction with ourselves and the environment in a matter of a few months, year, that's phenomenal. If we think about how long this backpack has been on our back, to use that as a metaphor, we've been carrying, you know, this undeserving quality, and to break out of that in a matter of a few months to a year, I think is pretty miraculous. So you may not know what it feels like to be deserving, but I'm here to say that all of us deserve really, really solid lives that are free and good and filled with, you know, beauty and all of the pains that come with emotions. But it's when we don't know how to express and feel all of the human color, all of the human emotions, the rainbow of emotional experience and physical experience. When we get that on board, that's when we start to get really healthy. That's when our life force energy is up and out. Sumbal asks, can we start the work if we don't have security and secure external factors? Will it take longer for my body to start regulating? It may, and it depends what those things are. If someone is still living in a war-torn country and there's military action and you can't express who you are and what you want to do, or if you're in a home life where your abusers or the people that caused you trauma you're still living with and you're still dependent on them, yes, it may take a little longer. However, if you can start to do this work in that environment, it will build your capacity to set clearer boundaries, to know how to manage and regulate experience that is happening externally or in the internal environment. It just means that it might take a little longer, but it'll give you that upper hand, right? It'll give you that ace card that'll allow you to move through the trickiness that you're in with a little more regulation, as opposed to continually shutting down or going into more high activation that is also dangerous. Great question. Hey, Josephine, one of our alumni. She's a rock star. She said, the saying, you need to feel to heal, is so true in the Course. It's the only way, and Irene has created a course for you to be able to do this. It takes time, and doing the work, you will reap the benefits. Yes, Josephine has been doing this work with me for quite a few years now. She still shows up for the training calls, the Q&A calls. She's like got her master's degree or maybe PhD in SBSM by now. Okay, Elise, you speak of skin rashes and other reactions surfacing. My concern is that a grand mal could get triggered, which is dangerous. So yes, I think, Elise, one, as you know, I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist, so it'll be important that you interact with your medical professionals. And I also know of people who have shifted pretty severe seizure patterns. I'm not speaking of people specifically in SBSM, but I'm thinking of people that I've worked with one-on-one. And so, yes, that is a concern, and you have to address that with your medical professionals. And I will also say, Don't underestimate the power of learning how to titrate and do this work tiny by tiny by tiny, tiny bits. What it's doing is it's allowing the system to grow capacity, to be with whatever the intensity is that is tripping that switch in your system that will create that event. So again, you have to feel right. You have to have that desire to go in and do the work, and to also really listen. It's about listening to those little trickles that tell you, okay, that's enough. And now I'm going to just integrate that activation, because I think that's that activation that leads to the seizure, for example, right? It's the same when I worked with people who have severely migraine headaches. There's often something that they, as they get better at listening, they track and track back to, holy, it was that, or it was this. And yes, skin is a very interesting one. It's the largest organ in our body, has tons of nerve endings. And it is a way that the system can express the toxins that have been stored in the system. So very important to know that that can happen. While it's hard and they are uncomfortable, and this is something I've experienced a lot in my past, the skin will express what it needs to express. And the thing that's good about the skin expressing is that we're seeing it. It's not internal, right? It's not internal, it's coming out, and that's a really good sign. So the audio, so the exercises are mainly all audio. The video are my trainings. We do have some bonus video movement exercises with my colleague Ilya Marak. He does some Qigong and Tai Chi, but that is not the curriculum. It is an added bonus. The reason everything is audio when it comes to the practical is I am not wanting to show you. I'm wanting you to feel and learn how to sense and direct yourself. And so that, again, is a very important distinction between some other programs where they might show you what to do, like a yoga or an exercise thing. This is very different because you're really learning how to sense and guide that sensation through the movement and the exploration. Hey, Lynn. Okay, good. I'm glad that helped. Sunbell, why does SBSM only run once a year? That's a great question. We used to run it twice a year. Time. It's a lot of work for myself and my team. And we have found that people also, we want people to have time to integrate. We want people to not be dependent on us running this course all the time. So we run it in, well, it'd be our spring, our late winter here in the north, in the sort of March, just because that's a good time for our company, for my business. Typically, I'm teaching overseas and in other countries at this time. I was last year, the year before, of course, that's changed this year, but I anticipate that will happen again. I want to start doing more in-person stuff. So we just had to make a decision and just run it once a year and know that that's the time when we all come together, we really study, we really practice, we form community, and then at the end, people have to go out and integrate the work into their life and find ways to bring it into their everyday. And in some ways, I prefer that because I want to make sure my students are integrating it into their lives without me there every week to give them prompts. It's very important to me that you take this and hopefully I'm not having to be in your life in a few years, right? We want to find a way for that work to mature so that you can take out and do what you need to do with it. All right, I am going to end this. Thank you for all your questions. It is, if you're watching this live, it's obviously Monday, the 7th. If you're listening to this at another time, I'm not sure when it is, but the deadline is Friday, this Friday, the 11th. I would really urge you, if you're listening to this now, before Friday, if you know you want to join SBSM, if you are interested in helping us out, helping out this process of researching this work for the first time at this level, if you've got about 6 hours, 2 hours now in December, a 2-hour time period in March and in June to do the surveys, to do the preliminary tests. Of course, the We will repeat those same tests in March and then in June. If you want to donate some of your time to that, I would love it. It would be great that we can get this off and running. Of course, if you are interested in just doing Smart Body, Smart Mind, that's fine too. Join us in February. We will obviously do more promotions. I'll remind you if you're on my email list, social media, you'll see those pieces. I think that's it. I hope that's it for now. Thanks to everyone who has been here live, who is watching the recording afterwards. And let's just, keep doing this work. Whether you choose to do this with me or you choose to do something else with someone else, get into the nervous system work. It is important. It is essential. The one thing I will say, the students that I work with, and I've just been doing some interviews with some of them over Zoom, and we've loaded about 3 already onto my channels. I've got a few more to come. All of them have said this. They've all said, I've tried so many things, dozens of things, healing practices, supplements, diets, Reiki, therapy, yoga, cold therapy, all the things, right? Even SE, even things on their own. But they have said time and time again, and again, you can read their stories on my site, the blending of all of it together is the secret sauce. It brings all of these important neuroplastic healing pieces together. You won't find anything like this anywhere in the world, not yet at least. I am high level in my fields. I know most of the people that are at the high level, they're not blending these things together. They might in private practice, right? Oh, I will say one more thing. Sorry, guys. One more thing. I stopped private practice, and I've talked about this in other worlds, to create these courses because it wasn't enough for me. It wasn't enough to just see someone 1 hour a week. It was still good, but it wasn't enough. So I realized about 5 years ago, this work that I'm doing with my clients and the education I'm giving them and the homework assignments I'm giving them, they have to go into a course. They have to be something that people can practice, not just 1 hour a week, but over the course of a week as if you're learning a new language, right? You're never going to learn a new language if you only practice 1 hour a week. Won't happen. So my private practice was shut down. I stopped it to put all of these information pieces, the practical, the training, the videos, all of it into this one program. And that's what Smart Body, Smart Mind is. So that was kind of a quick history of why I created this, because it was just not enough to see people once a week for 1 hour if people were able to even afford that. So just wanted to say that this was created out of very strong intention to know that humans need more than just a little bit. We need a lot. And when we get a lot and we get those foundations on board, then it's set, right? And then you can keep adding and integrating. But this initial learning, I believe, is very important so we can become our own medicine. All right, now I'm really going to stop. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your time and attention. And I won't know if you join now. So it feels kind of weird. But if you do join, I will see you and welcome you with all the other new members come March. And I'll thank you now if you do. Thank you for joining, and I won't know until it's all over. So thank you, and you're welcome. Thank you for your thank yous. We'll talk to you later. And if you have any questions, follow up, send us an email to support@irenelyon.com. If you have any preliminary question or any questions about the research itself, first go and learn on our site what the research piece people are telling you. Watch their video, read their letter. If you still have questions after that, it might take you about an hour and 15 minutes to go through that extra stuff. Then reach out to them if your questions haven't been answered, but hopefully they will. Okay, I am now going to hang up. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye for now.